Hi everyone, it's time again for the Steve Perryman podcast with our friends Tom and Howard. Welcome, chaps.
Hi.
Good evening.
Yeah, great to see you. So it's been a few games since we spoke last, and maybe we'll have just a little run through of those games and performances, albeit we're a little bit behind, but you know, a game against Arsenal is always worth speaking about, even the fact that it left us a bit depressed, I would say. Mm-hmm. But should we start there? Arsenal losing 3-1 to the old enemy. I thought it was a deserved loss. Is that how you saw it, chaps?
Yep.
Tom?
Yeah, I mean, I thought at half-time that I turned to my son and said, I think they're there for the taking in the second half. I thought that we started slowly, but then grew into it a bit. And I just figured that if we carried on in that way and got a good talking to at half-time, I genuinely saw opportunities for us to win the game, having equalised. But we didn't. We just started the second half as badly as we started the first. We didn't carry on any of the momentum that we built up in that first half as it went on, and then one mistake from Hugo and that tackle from Emerson, which I thought was a bit of a soft red card. See him give him, see him not, then we just never laid a glove on him after that.
Howard, Loris, is he worrying you?
I'm a little bit worried. In the few games before, he'd been very, very good.
Yeah.
And against Arsenal, he was not himself, as I've seen it. He flapped at a few. Didn't have to deal with many shots, but he flapped at a few crosses.
Against Brighton, you're talking about?
Against all of them, in fact.
Yeah. No, I agree. So yeah, I mean, it was a terrible goal to give away, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Terrible goal. And what about the midfield change from 3-4-3 to 3-5-2? Do you think that was warranted?
It worked on the occasion, didn't it?
Yeah. I do like the extra man in there. It allows us. The problem is if you play a front three, that you've got three up, and that's a space we want to be running into, I think. So I don't think we lose anything when there's only two up there, and it makes us more solid in midfield, surely.
I think that's where Kulusevski adds a lot, because he does play. Yeah, if you're playing up, both. Yeah, and if you're playing up front, if you're playing Kane, Son, and Richarlison up front, like you say, you might as well. You sacrificed a lot of that midfield control, and certainly some of the last few games, it's looked like we've been crying out for an extra man in the middle, and I think against Brighton, we saw the difference it made, certainly in the first half, at least in terms of the control we were able to have in the middle of the park.
We could go hunting for the ball, couldn't we? Our midfield could go hunting because there was sort of a bit more security behind them, and that was the springboard for us to go and do a bit more damage. Not a fantastic amount of damage, but enough. And when you score early in such a game as Harry did, then of course the game changes.
Brighton are no mugs either, are they? You know, they got a good result against Liverpool. They hadn't lost at home in 7 months, I think. Yeah. So I think that was a really good win.
Yeah, to score 3 at Liverpool is no mean feat, is it, for them? The first game of the new manager.
Yeah, and this was their first home game under him. You know, they must have been. They would have been up for it.
Yeah. Did you see much of that 3-3, Howard, at Liverpool?
A fair bit of it, yeah. And the margins are so fine, aren't they? If you're going to make a mistake, but Liverpool appear to be really struggling because their backup, the rest of their squad, is not up to what they had.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And none of us predicted it before the season started, but it's easy to be clever after the event.
Yeah.
But yeah, they look like they're struggling, and I think the fact is City are going to run away with the league, and anybody else has got to go full pelt just to keep up with them, just keep second place.
Yeah, they've started to look a bit ordinary, Liverpool, haven't they?
Yeah.
Is it Klopp's 8th season syndrome? Every club he's at, I think, certainly Dortmund, it was the
Is
8th
that-
season where
Is
and
that right?
and the club he was it before
Okay, no problem, Tom.
but yeah, the club he was at before as well. He by all accounts it was his 8th. Mainz.
Mance, yeah, yeah.
Had a similar thing there, I think, where it just kind of petered out after a certain,
Yeah.
after that 7-year cycle.
Yeah,
We've seen twice in City.
I've never seen Liverpool look so nervous in possession of the ball.
Yeah.
It looked like they had to do 3 or 4 things really good in tight situations to end up looking like Liverpool normally do. But yeah, I've noticed more urgency in Harry's legs
Yeah.
from the Arsenal game, where I thought that his legs were looking a bit tired, to the start of the Brighton game when he was sharp onto it. I think we'd lost possession and it went to their midfield player and he was quick onto him from behind and made him make a mistake, and we then started to play a bit. But the red card, of course it affected the game. I still come back to the same thing. I thought Arsenal were good winners on the day, as hard as that is to say.
Yeah.
The red card made it a bit more, a bigger gap between the two teams, and probably it is.
I'd say so.
Yeah. And would you have given a red card for it?
No.
I
Not
don't think so. I think you've seen him given for it. You've seen him not for that kind of challenge. I didn't think it was a straight red by any means, but it happens. Yeah, they've had a few. It always seems like we just lose at their place, they lose at our place. And that's just the way it is in recent years.
In recent years, it's not been. It's been they've drawn probably at our place. They haven't lost as many.
Yeah, but I mean, the last 5 years, I think we beat them.
Okay.
I think the one time we didn't beat them was that the Wembley one where Kane, where Aubameyang's penalty in the last minute. But other than that, we just always beat them at our place. They usually get a man sent off, and then we lose at their place and we get a man sent off. It's just the way.
I'm going to go against the grain here. I thought it was a red card. There was a situation on the touchline where the Arsenal player did him. Royale did him.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking to myself, if I was playing, I think I'd get that one back. And then a couple of minutes later, the ball came to the wide player again, and he should have nailed him. He could have nailed him in a nothing position, but he would have let him know that he was around. And he didn't take it. And I remember thinking, you should have, that was your chance. And then he chose the wrong time to do it. So the foot was left on him. What I will say to agree with you two is that I've seen incidents prior to that game and actually since that game when as bad a challenge and even worse challenges were allowed to be just a yellow. So the consistency part of what we're doing is not quite right. Did you see the winning goal for Arsenal against Liverpool?
Yeah.
Penalty?
Yeah.
That's the guy.
Yes, Howard, penalty from you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't sure. For some reason, I'm seemingly going against you two. But anyway, I thought it was very, very soft. What does it matter what I think? The referee thought it was, and therefore it was a penalty and the winning goal. One thing that's been worrying me, do you remember the last season when Lloris and Son had a row at half-time?
Yeah.
Against Everton.
Yep. I think it was against Everton.
Yeah, it was the season before, and it was the no crowd season. Because I remember.
Oh, was it? Okay,
Yeah,
so
Mourinho.
yeah, okay. So that was about Son recovering to goal, which if you're playing in a front three, one of you must recover to goal. One of the three has got to go halfway.
Yeah.
And the third man stays up on the halfway line. That's how I see a front three working. So on these occasions, it's Son. So Son is recovering to goal. And the opponent's job is to get a 2v1 anywhere on the field. If you look at Manchester City play, all their passing is to encourage someone to get lazy or someone not to know their job. On the 2 occasions against the Arsenal, Son, despite getting back, great, well done. That's the first part. But the second part is to know your job, know your role. Because now you're not allowing a 2 against 1 wide. You're actually 2 for 2. But you better know what you're doing. And he did not know what he was doing. And that led to their goals. So I think someone could have had a moan at Son with regard to those events happening, similar to the way that Loris had done,
Yeah.
as you said, two seasons earlier in lockdown. But I think that's a little bit of a worry if you play Son in a 4-3-3. His energy takes him back. He wants to defend. Great. And we want him to defend. But make sure you know what you're doing. You know, it's no good having a great big centre forward who comes back as ever to defend set pieces and then let someone run off him so he doesn't defend properly. You might as well be up on the halfway line. So I'm starting to get that little bit of a doubt on Son and with regard to his defensiveness, and therefore I think he needs to play in a 2 and being either on the halfway line or being halfway back into our own half, waiting to someone to win the ball, and then he can turn and then start us off. That's how I see it. So no goals against us in the last 2 games. How was the Eintracht Frankfurt game? Sort of tight. Recovered
a bit. It's a very, very tight game. I think if anybody was going to win it, it should be us, but it ended up no score. And clearly it's a good one to win. They're clearly not mugs. I mean, they won this damn tournament last season, didn't they?
Yeah, very much so. So, but we're still confident this week, aren't we, in that game? We're capable of beating them.
I think so. Yeah.
And are you two going to the game?
Yeah.
I can't go on Wednesday night. I'll be back on Saturday for the Everton game now.
Okay. And how's the COVID situation in your house, Tom?
It's gone away, thankfully. We're still feeling a bit rough. Feel a bit beaten up from it. It's the first time we've had it.
Yeah.
Much better than this time last week. Thank you.
Good. Okay, I'm having a booster this week. Howard, have you had yours yet?
I had my booster last week.
Well done. So we're going to be safe very soon, surely. So that allows us to have a look. I got invited to the American football game at the stadium yesterday. I couldn't go, but I got a late invite from Daniel Levy's wife, which was a very nice invite. Unfortunately, I couldn't take it up, but would have been nice to see our stadium in a different light as such. So I'm going to come on to our goal against Brighton. Any comments on that? Harry's goal from the corner that went out and come back in again.
Yeah.
Poacher's finish, wasn't it?
It's very, very good, and that's the sort of classic Harry goal that comes about because he's done so much work to put into it.
Yeah. Do you think Son was shooting, or do you think it was a cross?
I suspect Son was shooting because I think he's very much got that in his head right now that he's got to be the top scorer.
Do you think so? Yeah. I mean, it looked like it was going for the typical bend.
Yeah.
And it didn't quite bend enough, and therefore it put Harry in position. But it was a striker's goal, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Well, very much a striker's goal.
The commentator called it a deflection straight away, didn't he? And then it was like,
that was
but then said, "Oh no, that was a good predatory finish by Harry Kane." But it initially looked like it could have just bounced off and gone in, but it was a great finish.
Yeah. And what about what you're thinking about Bissouma so far?
I think he's easing in. I have no idea what's going on behind the scenes in terms of what's meant, in terms of his match fitness, his match readiness. Conte's said a couple of times several weeks ago that he wasn't ready to start. I think all I'll say is that we're not exactly, when he does play, we're not exactly seeing the Bissouma who played very, very well against us for Brighton at the Spurs Stadium last season on more than one occasion.
Yeah, definitely not.
You just hope that he's presumably still learning, adapting to a new club, new system, and maybe doesn't quite have the confidence to play freely in it as of yet. But he's clearly a very good player from what we saw.
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. If you remember the podcast, I was sort of putting him forward as a possibility. I mean, not a possibility. He was a good player, and I couldn't imagine that anyone would let him go. And there must have been a situation there with contracts. I think you know more about that than me, Tom. As per, they had to let him go to get some decent money for him. Howard, your thoughts on him?
I haven't seen enough of him live to really make up my mind, but I think he's looked a bit better each time he's played. Yeah. So I'm hopeful that it's a positive move. Keep going forward.
Yeah, I'm a bit disappointed that he's looked too prepared to play the ball one touch back to where it's come from.
Right.
So he's starting to look a bit negative to me. But that could be the sign of a player that's lost a bit of confidence.
Yeah.
And why wouldn't he lose his confidence if he's not being given game time? So I would understand that as well. But I remember him against us driving with the ball.
Yeah.
Driving with the ball from midfield. And that was anything but negative.
Yeah.
So we've still got a bit to come of him. I mean, we're not light players in midfield, but we had light numbers. Yes. Just returning to that aspect. So we got two decent players in there, but it just looked like we needed the third one to underline our strength, as it were. So yeah, Bentancur looks better in a 3 than a 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, he looks as if he wants to get forward and can get forward, and he likes a shot, doesn't he?
Yeah.
That's the part of the game I like. And our other man, Højbjerg, can turn up anywhere, can't he? He can turn up on our own goal line, or he can turn up on their goal line. So that's going to be interesting to see how that develops. So a couple of sad items. Gian, Piero, Ventroni sadly passed away this week. I don't know anything about him, chaps. Can you help me out on that one?
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry, Howard. I mean, I knew very little of him other than seeing him hugging Son for quite a long time after the Leicester game, when Son came back and got his hat-trick. He was one of the first people he ran to at the end of the game. And also seeing him in the summer in Korea, really pushing the squad through its paces in the heat, and to the extent that they were kind of throwing up on the side of the pitch. But by all accounts, he was a really hard taskmaster, but a very popular, very, very popular man in the club, with all the players. He was he's worked with Antonio Conte for years and years. He was responsible for. He was part of the team where Italy won the World Cup as well. And it's shocking how quickly it happened. Acute leukemia. To suddenly go downhill in the way he did, and I just think we can't underestimate what an impact that must have had on Antonio and the players, given the kind of feedback that's come out of the club and the tributes that have come out of the club, about his character and what he was like to have around the place.
It was very moving, Howard, to see the reaction of the management, the bench, before the Brighton game, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, he's a tough nut, Conte,
Sure.
and he was visibly shaken, wasn't he?
Yes.
So that's a shame. And Conte's teams have all been built on fitness.
Yep.
Everyone's got to contribute to the team effort. That's the way it seems. So if this guy was his go-to man for the fitness, he must have trusted him, and obviously that's shown itself in the reactions. So, Howard, any thoughts on our friend John Duncan, his sad passing?
Yeah, John Duncan, I always remember as being he struck me as a very straight guy.
Very much so.
Great
description, that, Howard.
Thank you. And his number one goal scoring season, I presume, was the second division promotion, where he was a key striker for us. There's always a bit of a weakness for us.
Yeah, for sure.
Chris Neely-Jones and Jerry Neely-Armstrong not good enough for it, really. And Duncan, I thought, always was good enough. He had this calm feeling about him when he was going to shoot. You knew what he was doing, and you knew that he knew what he was doing. Then in that summer we bought Ozzy and Ricky, and so although he was part of the squad the next season, he was very much lesser.
Out of it. He's a very measured individual. I saw him as not quite the typical footballer.
Yeah,
he's very, very educated, and I remember him in team meetings when sometimes it gets a little bit out of hand and something's said, the spur of the moment. And he'd be sat down in the home team dressing room, and he'd put his arms out straight and he'd say, "Now just wait a minute. Let's just go through that again." so very measured, an educated opinion, but very straight as you have. It's a very good description, Howard. And he put in his the graph that you need as a striker. But of course, he was smelling the goal. He would rather run towards goal than run back and defend. But why not? So, I liked him as an individual. And I just remember at times, because when you're doing finishing practices, a striker would maybe get 30 finishes in a session to finish off with. And one or two of those strikes at goal, attacking a cross or whatever, he would shape to put it in one corner, and Pat would go, and it would go in the other corner off of his knee. And therefore, that was very frustrating to someone like Big Pat. So Pat used to let him know how lucky he was on certain of his finishes at goal. But when that's going for you, not against you, like it was for Pat, it was going for you instead. You're delighted with any sort of goal, however it goes in. So, but I think he had a bit of everything, John. I think he had a bit of pace, not over quick, but he could attack it in the air and he could read the cross. And I listened to a podcast that he was in, just to remind myself, and he was very thankful for the crosses from people like Ralph Coates and Terry Naylor from the wing position and also the fullback position. So yeah, John, sad passing, and we won't forget you. And thank you for your work on behalf of Tottenham Hotspur. And of course, he played for other teams before and after us. And you seem to remember him, Tom, from managing Chesterfield.
Yeah, I was a bit young to have any memories of him playing for Spurs, but I've got very vivid memories of him losing his glasses in the celebration against Middlesbrough in the semi-final when they got when Chesterfield got the late equaliser. And I've only ever heard nice things about him from the likes of yourself and from so yeah, really sad day all around for Spurs the other day, losing him.
Yeah, he did good things with Chesterfield, didn't he? Did good for things, and I think he got them through to 2 semi-finals. Might have been 1 League Cup and one FA Cup, but coming from the division they were, that's not a typical place to be, is it, in a semi-final? I mean, you'd be delighted with that if he was in the top league.
Yeah.
So he was doing something good there as well. So I mentioned Terry Naylor's crossing of the ball. I saw Terry on Friday night just gone. I did a talk in Blackheath. Very, very good host, Paul Welch and his partner, Tracy, put together a nice group of people. South London, I was like a fish out of water. I have to say, I never know how I got to South London, and I don't know how I got out. And that's not a fear element, that's just a geography. Of course, if we were playing Millwall or Crystal Palace or Charlton, I'm probably arriving by bus, coach, of course, with the team. And so why should I remember the way there? But the number of years I did travel to those sort of places and still could not tell you today how to get there. So it was great to see not only Terry Naylor, also Tony Want was there. And some of the older supporters would remember Tony. He was a very, very good homegrown left back. He filled in most of the time for Cyril Knowles, and ended up, I think, being transferred to Birmingham City, and then ended up in America, where he had a great time. Now lives up in the Midlands, the Birmingham area. But it was great for those two to be at my function, and both of them were there to give some sort of introduction to me, and they know my career, and therefore they gave a good account of the number of games I played and a consistency about me, etc., which was really nice and doesn't normally happen at these type of talks. You get introduced by the host, and fine. But they were so great in their praise of me that I said, my first line was, as they were talking, I thought I'd like to meet him. Oh no, it's me. so yeah, so that was quite funny, but had a really good night there. A very, very decent group of people talking to, and the fact it was in South London, it wasn't only Spurs people. There was some interesting West Ham people, Charlton, Arsenal, and sometimes on a night like that, it can make it a touch more interesting because they have a different take on events. So we were looked after and we enjoyed it very much so, Kim and myself. So I've mentioned this name before, Adam Stansfield, our striker that we lost early at Exeter City. And his son, if you remember the last podcast, I said he'd returned, having been sold to Fulham. His son returned on loan, and he scored 2 goals at the weekend. So delighted for him. He wasn't being led by Matt Taylor, the normal manager of Exeter City, since my friend Paul Tisdale left, because Matt left himself and took staff with him to Rotherham. So I was looking for their result on Saturday, but unfortunately they got beaten. So there's some changes afoot at Exeter City, and we wish Matt the best of luck. I saw something on Facebook today. I don't know if you saw it, Tom. Harry Kane announcing this foundation.
Yeah.
And I noticed in the bit of film, it was like cartoon type.
It was a really good animation. Really good.
Really good, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And so we wish him well for that, this foundation. I think it's with regard to mental health.
Yeah.
And he was putting up the case that he was turned down by a certain club, and then he was invited to his next club, and then it didn't go smooth for him. We know that he went on loan of various clubs, and it wasn't nailed on that he was going to make it. But the lesson was, okay, go again. Just work harder, go again. And but within it, I saw something where he had a number 37. And my training number was 37. And I thought because it was on a bib that's it was his training number. And I'd have been very proud if it had been. But unfortunately, it was pointed out to me that 37 was his playing number. So my highest playing number, anyone know what that is? Bearing in mind there was no squad numbers in those days.
8.
My biggest shirt number, Howard. There's
37.
a test. There's a test.
Right.
What did you say?
8.
37.
No, that was my training number.
Yeah.
The highest number I ever had was 11.
Oh, really?
Because when I made my debut, I was sort of replacing on the program notes Roger Morgan. And although I didn't play on the left wing like he did, there must have been a change of system or whatever. And I took the 11 shirt. The least number I've ever had. Anyone
2.
know that?
2.
No.
1.
Howard?
5.
5. Yes, got it. And where was the 5? You should know this, Howard.
Well, the only person I remember wearing the 5 was when they made the cock up putting the shirts on in the 1981
Absolutely right. That was the 5. That was the one. So, Howard, you've passed the test. Very
Thank
well
you.
done. We're very proud of you. And you've obviously been away on holiday. Well, no, you're always away on holiday. What am I saying? So, when's the next one, Howard?
I think you know.
We're going to Bergen.
We're going to Bergen.
We're going to Bergen, the 4 of us, Kim and Viv and us 2. We're going to Bergen and we're going to be part of a big screen viewing in a pub or some sort of hall with regard to Manchester United, the away game. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Howard, are you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, we're hoping to meet our friend Piero, you know.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
And Viv couldn't get hold of her for a few days. And that's because her house burnt down.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of timber in the houses in Norway.
Yeah.
Bless her. Oh well, hopefully we see her for even a short time.
You might be on the flight on at the airport on the way home. Anyway, we'll see.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay. Thank you, chaps. Much
Thank
appreciated. I see that we should just pass a note for Stephen Clements,
Yeah.
who I think would have left his job with Steve Bruce.
Yeah.
I think they got asked to leave at West Bromwich Albion. And so regards to you, Stephen, if you're listening. I know he does sometimes. So, there'll be another job coming around soon, I'm sure. So, okay, chaps, thank you very much for your input as ever. Go and have a nice evening and good luck, Howard, on is it Wednesday night?
The game.
Yeah. Who's the Wednesday? Tom, do you know?
Wednesday night in
Wednesday night.
Frankfurt.
Wednesday night. Certainly not Thursday night. Is it? Good luck. And we need a win in that game, don't we?
Yeah, got to win the home games in this group.
Yeah. So good luck with that. Give us a shout for me. And I think the next time I'm going is to the Leeds United game. So it'd be good to see the new stadium as against the old stadium. But yeah. Thanks for listening, chaps. Come on, you Spurs. And many thanks for you two for your help again, as ever.
Pleasure.
Come on,
Cheers,
you
Tom.
Spurs.
Cheers.